Good afternoon. My name is Mike Hobson. Welcome to the Centreville Press. Today we are conducting a candidate forum for the candidates who are in the runoff election, which is going to be held next week, next Tuesday, June the 21st. Which is Tuesday of next week. We invited both candidates who are in the runoff election to be here today. Only Mr. McGee is here, so we're going to interview Mr. McGee today and talk about his thoughts about the election, and we've got some questions we want to ask him about the superintendent's race. So today we're going to be talking only to Dwayne McGee, who is currently the incumbent superintendent of Bibb County Board of Education, and we'll spend time with him. Welcome, Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Mike.
And thank you for taking time out of your day to come talk to us.
Well, anytime. Thank you. Thank you for the service y'all provide for the news for the people of Bibb County. It's a great service.
Well, we appreciate you, because I know you're a busy guy, and we appreciate you taking the time out of running the school system, come up here and talk to us. I know people in the county are getting interested. When you have a race like this, a contested race, people get interested when it gets close to election day, and sometimes it's a short time left before they do start taking an interest. But fortunately, with digital video today, you can get some news out there, so we're going to take advantage of that.
Sure.
And try to get some information out for people who might not have gotten all the information they should have before they go to the poll. So today what I'd like to do is just ask you about some of the topics that I think are on people's mind. And while we might not have time to cover everything, I'd like to hit the high points with you and give you a chance to at least talk in a little bit about, I think, some of the most important things, and try to give people's answers to some of the most important things, if you can.
Sure.
So let's just start today and talk about the thing that I think is number one that people want to hear about, and that's school safety.
Yes.
Because it's in the news today. Everybody that I know about is talking about school safety because of recent events, and I know that surely that's probably on your mind and been on your windshield for a few days. So what's going on with the Bibb County school system as far as planning is concerned for the next school year in the area of school safety?
Well, Mike, one thing that we did several years ago, I don't know, it's been ongoing, but we've been putting controlled access in all of our schools, front doors. There's no longer the day where someone can just walk in the front door. Now you have to be buzzed in. And we have that in all of our schools right now, except Bibb County High School. But all of our other schools, the front door, is locked, stays locked, and you have to buzz in. Our receptionist, our principal sees you on a camera and buzz you in. We do have plans to get that at the front door of Bibb County High School. And additionally, we're working with our IT department to put us an additional keyless entry in other doors in our school. I think and I'm not an expert, but what happened most recently in Texas and other places is teachers often take groups of students outside, go outside for PE, the playground, recess, and oftentimes they may prop a door open or leave it open. Mm-hmm. We have great teachers in this school system and great PE teachers as well, but teachers don't always like to take their keys with them outside for PE or something. So in addition to our front door access, we're looking to add another keyless access for our employees to use, maybe in the back door or the door that's most often used to go out to a PE or playground. So we're looking at that as far as school access and entry. The other thing that most people bring up constantly is school resource officers.
Right.
And over the years, that's something that's come up. back in October, I think it was around October 25th of this past fall, I met with the sheriff and the county administrator and a couple of commissioners with a proposal for the school system to reimburse the county for school resource officers. And it's a need we've had, but one of the reasons I came forward with that, not just because we need this, but we've actually had a rewrite of our strategic plan. You know, school systems like Bibb County Schools do a strategic plan, and generally it's to be updated every 5 years. Well, we just recently did a 5-year update, and the stakeholders that we invite to craft our strategic plan, that was one of the things that they asked for. As funds are available, hire a school resource officer for each high school.
That's within the school system strategic plan, right?
The school system strategic plan.
Okay.
So I met in October. The CSFO and I met with the sheriff and a couple of commissioners, the county administrator. In the late January, my board attorney provided me with a draft copy of a memorandum of understanding that's basically an understanding between the school board and the sheriff's department on the parameters of reimbursement and what exactly the school resource officer would be tasked with, what our expectations were, as well as the sheriff's department. I turned a copy of that memorandum of understanding over to the county administrator. I think it was the last day of April, and hopefully waiting to hear back from them. I have heard back from the sheriff since then, Jody Wade, but I think it's a go. I think it's something that what we as a school board have agreed to reimburse the county for school resource officers. I think it's something that they will agree to, and right now we're waiting to hear back from the county commission and sheriff's department on moving forward with this agreement.
Is that something that's already been approved by the county board of education? They already approved that?
Well, we have discussed it in a board work session as far as an actual agenda item where the board has approved the funding for that. It hasn't come up on a board agenda because we have not actually worked out the agreement.
It's not a contract to be approved yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
But the board is all completely on board with this.
But they've been supporting the concept to get us to this point. So,
yes.
So it's been in the planning stages.
So, it's still my hope that when school starts in August, the sheriff's department will have hired and trained at least 2 resource officers for Bibb County schools.
Okay. So, and the funding for that's going to come from the school system. Is that right? Is that the plan?
Well, yes, it is. If it would be nice if the county or local municipalities would put up the money to hire school resource officers. I understand that it's not always there. Our county, our city municipalities, our county government, just like the school system, we don't have the money to do absolutely everything that we want to do and needs to be done. But yes, for right now, we've committed about $90,000 to the commission sheriff's department for school resource officers. And again, that's a reimbursement for their cost. We're not in the business of hiring police officers as a school board.
Right.
Our job, our intention is to reimburse the sheriff's department for this.
Well, if this plan were to work, then the police officer would be a sheriff's department employee. Is that right? I mean, it'd be
right now our MOU is with the sheriff's department.
Right. So it'd be a sworn police officer who's working for the sheriff's department.
Right. And one of the reasons for that, Mike, not to shut out our municipalities, our cities, but we do have a couple of schools that are in unincorporated parts of the county. Sure. And typically a school resource officer employed by the sheriff's department could work anywhere in the county at any school.
Right.
So I'd say that's where we start, and say that branching out and coming up with memorandums possibly in the future with municipalities could be an option if it's not something the towns will provide on their own.
Okay. Well, that sounds promising. Now, you mentioned that every school has a security plan, and essentially the schools have, I'm going to call it a locked door policy during the daytime where there's limited access.
Right.
You can't just walk in the building.
Right.
Is that correct?
Ideally, yes, but again, we don't want, and teachers aren't supposed to leave any outer doors open, propped open, a door in them. So yes, all the doors in the school are supposed to be locked all day, every day. But keep in mind, we do have students in and out of the building at PE and playground all the time.
Well, okay. Well, I think that's what everybody wants to hear, is that the freedom to just let somebody in and out of the building, those days are over with.
Oh, right. All the doors are locked. Single access should be basically what we call the front office door, the front of the school. Those have an electronic code with a buzzer so that the receptionists or anyone in the front office can see on the monitor who it is, can speak with them, and buzz them in.
All right. Are there other steps that are under consideration for additional security steps at schools at the present time?
Well, it seems like we're always updating our cameras and adding new cameras as far as security cameras. So to answer your question, that would be another step where we're looking to add a few cameras every year as funding becomes available. There always seems to be, Mike, a spot here or there in every school where we just don't have coverage. This part of a hall, this door, this outside door area, or even this part of the outdoors of the perimeter of the school. So yes, we are looking at adding cameras in places where we've, over the years discovered, well, we've got a blind spot here. Okay.
All right. Well, let's change topics.
Sure.
Let's talk about school finances. You've been superintendent now since 2015, right?
January 1st, 2015.
That's a long time. Do you have a handle on school finances yet?
Well, we do. I've recently shared via a social media post that as of May 22nd, we had over 3 months of operating reserves left. A state law requires every school system to maintain at least 1 month of school funding. We're at, I think, 3.68 months as of May 22nd. And I just literally a few hours ago from the School Superintendent Association, in spite of the recession and everything that's going on, Alabama sales tax receipts are at an even record number compared to last year. Not just Bibb County, but I'm talking about statewide. $1.54 billion in the first 8 months of the current fiscal year, higher or more than last year. So I would say probably not just Bibb County schools, but it would seem to me that probably a lot of schools in the state are seeing record sales taxes.
Right. Well, I hope that continues, and I hope that doesn't change. But what's the annual budget of the Bibb County school system? Annual?
Right around $30 million.
$30 million a year?
Right. That's a good ballpark.
Okay. That's a big number for a Bibb County business. Is there, in your knowledge, this is just ballpark, compared to any other business in Bibb County, would you say that the school system is one of the largest industries in Bibb County?
Yes.
Have a way to know?
I recall an AL.com article a couple or 3 years ago that listed the largest employer in every county. And Bibb County, like several other counties, the school system was the largest employer in the whole county.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And that was an AL.com article. So I haven't seen them run that article in the last 12 months, but yes, I would say the Bibb County Schools is the largest employer in the county.
Do you know the number on how many employees there are now?
Around 442. We recently, back in December, January, we offered a professional development program for all of our employees, bus drivers, teachers, custodians, everyone. And it was for a $1,000 stipend to complete some professional development on mental health and COVID-related issues. And I believe we issued 442 employees that $1,000 stipend.
Okay.
And it was my understanding from the CSFO and payroll that there were only 1 or 2 employees that did not take advantage of that.
Okay.
So,
Well, I know that Bibb County has had a lot of construction in the last, since 2015 when you went into office. There's been a lot of construction that has gone on because of some bond issues that have been entered into, or some funding that has been available because of bond issues. And I read here that those bond issues, or a bond issue, was renewed in 2020. And I'm going to ask you to correct me or to give me some help on this. But I think that those bonds that were originally issued for school construction, 2020 they were renewed. And I don't know how much money has been spent, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood, according to this report that I had, the debt was down to about $4.7 million in 2020, and there was some additional money refinanced. That's not my question. I'm just asking about, I'm going to be asking about school construction, because what I keep hearing and have been hearing for the last couple of years is that money spent on one end of the county and not spent on the other end of the county. So there's been a lot of money spent on both ends of the county, and that's what I want to get to.
All right.
About school construction. So I was looking at some numbers somebody provided me about construction projects, and I know that we have had a lot of money to spend. And in the last couple of years, I noted that, by the way, school construction projects, whenever you have them to spend, that process involves the superintendent, doing an analysis, deciding what you want to spend money on, and then taking a recommendation to the board for approval.
Sure.
You don't decide by yourself, do you?
Oh, no.
Dwayne doesn't decide.
No. There have been several things that I've pitched to the community, to the principals, that I thought would be a good thing, but they didn't think so. So, no, it's not my decision. Well,
do the communities get to make recommendations about what they want to spend when bond money is available, or how they want to spend it?
We had asked school principals to meet with their stakeholders, board members to meet with their principals and stakeholders to discuss needs, necessities, things of that issue. For example, when the bond issue was coming about, I honestly, and this is just me, I thought it'd be a great idea to build an auditorium in the north end of the county. We have land available at Woodstock School that we could have built possibly a 500-seat auditorium that could have been used for the schools in the north end of the county for pageants and band concerts, everything you use an auditorium for. And I thought that was a great idea, but others didn't think so much. Right. There were other needs, and I understand that. So getting back to your question, if it was all up to me, I might have done that, but that money was planned to use in other areas.
Right. Well, the board members have options to bring projects to the table. That's what they're for.
Sure. Yes.
Is to make recommendations to the board, and if board members bring their projects or approve your projects, eventually they get voted on.
Right.
as to whether or not we're going to go forward with the project, right?
Generally, what we do is we meet with an architect to get pretty much a ballpark idea of what a project may cost. An architect can get information from us, what we want. This is how big we want it. These are how many students it should serve, and an architect can come up with an estimated cost based on current bids of similar projects and square footage cost, and we can go back to the board with those estimates, and see how much of that bond issue money we want to do.
Right.
Do we want to? Can we do everything that we want to do here, or do we need to scale that project back just a little bit?
Right. Well, I'm dealing here with facts. I think I'm dealing with the facts, and I want to ask you this, just from a review of some of the minutes of the previous board meetings over the last couple of years. It looks to me like, and just going back to 2020, when school started, in August of 2020, the superintendent, you, recommended that the West Blockton High School do a $2.5 million project to upgrade the building up there, including, and I remember this, I believe, that they asked to do an upgrade of the electrical system up there.
That was to Schneider Electric
Yeah.
for $2.58 million.
Electrical
We'd
sensors.
been having issues for years at West Blockton High School. Lights would just go out in any
Right.
given classroom. They would come back on. Sometimes bells might ring indiscriminately. Just all kinds of electrical issues. And after having an audit of the building, it was determined that this whole building needs new wiring, all the HVACs replaced, all the electrical panels, boxes, what we would call a breaker box, switches, everything.
All right,
was
so
just
that
overall.
project went to the board, it was approved, and that was a $2.5 million project for the high school.
It was.
Then in September of the same year, you recommended for the high school in the Bibb County High School some upgrades to the softball facility, $600,000.
Yes.
For dressing rooms, restrooms, stadium improvements. That was
Exactly.
$600,000. That was approved. That was project number 2. Project number 3 was in December of 2020, where West Blockton got some upgrades to the athletic lighting on the high school. Musco Lighting Sports, $681,000. Softball and baseball fields with lighting upgrades. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So that was a project that was approved by the board, right?
That was. We're actually able to do that a little cheaper than Musco. Musco is a well-known company that provides LED lighting for sports stadiums throughout the Southeast, but their actual lights can be found on a state bid list. So Musco helped us purchase the actual lights cheaper than they could provide them through Sourcewell, and we used a company called Titan Electric to do the construction phase of it.
All right, then right after that, in January of 21, the Bibb County High School got some upgrades. This is a $5 million project that was approved for the high school, which is a new gym, classrooms, restrooms, dressing rooms, storage, weight room.
All of that.
This is all the new gymnasium for the Bibb County High School. That was approved in January 21 by the board approving it, right?
Yes.
That was in January. Then in February, just a month later, a project for West Blockton was approved to upgrades $1.3 million for football, softball press box, concession stand, restroom, softball stadium, all upgrades to bleachers up there. Right. And then in September, the next project that was approved, again for West Blockton, was for band room, restrooms, offices, classrooms, training rooms, dressing rooms. Looks like baseball upgrades. This must be the last project that's been approved. It must be ongoing now.
Sure, yes.
That's a $5 million project.
Well, that's the last big project that's been approved that, was a lot, what we call a lot of money. We've approved a lot of smaller projects, some HVAC replacements here, some roofing there, some other items, but those are the major, where you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those are major.
Well, they are major,
projects.
and the way I added it up, it looks like for the north end of the county, that's $10.2 million awarded in 2 years, and for the south end of the county, that's $5.9 million. So if there's any difference in the amount of money that's spent, it is a lot of difference. But people who are saying that the north end doesn't get treated fairly aren't looking at the report that I'm looking at.
Mike, all I can speak for is my own past administration of the last 8 years, and I'd say the people in the county, all across the county, and if you're the kind of person that wants to break it down into a north versus south thing, it's been more than fair and more than generous of my administration. Now, I can't speak for past superintendents and past administrations and past board makeups, but that's an ongoing sort of I don't know, a complaint or that.
Well, that's been going on since I was in high school.
Yeah,
right?
maybe so.
Okay,
maybe
so let's move on. Let's move on to something else.
We can. The one thing I would add to that. Several years ago, I think 2009, 8, 9, 10, when the 2007 bond issue happened that you mentioned earlier, that we just refinanced in 2020. When that happened, there were minor construction projects all over the county, but one of them was a big new building at Bibb County High School. New high school. It didn't completely replace the old high school because we still have classes in the old annex, and even at that time we were using the old high school and gym that were in great disrepair. But less than 10 years before that building was built at Bibb County High School, a brand new school was built in West Blockton Middle School. West Blockton Middle School was not even 10 years old when the Bibb County High School construction began. So I think there are some people that forget or conveniently forget that the board, and again, I had nothing to do with that, but the board did build a new school in West Blockton. I think they moved into that around the year 2000, and another new building in 2010, I think, is when the students at Bibb County High School moved basically out of that building. So the argument that people like to make is, well, this part of the county got a new school, so we deserve a new school. We'd like to build new schools everywhere, every single community. I'd love to build a new school, but it takes a lot of money to do that, a lot of money.
It does, and long-term planning, right?
Long-term planning, and when you've got the amount of money for this latest bond issue, there are a lot of upgrades. I mean, our facilities, and I know that most people will look and say, well, this was for baseball or softball or football or lighting and all. But we were way overdue in upgrading those facilities. And I can tell you this, the last 8 years or 6 years before 2020, a lot of what I heard from our parents and constituents was usually at a game, a baseball, softball, or football game, and it was usually, man, it sure would be nice if we had facilities like this. And I know I'd say, well, maybe one day we can, and we're
Well, you
we're
got to
addressing that.
Right, you got to live here a long time, like me and you and some others, to know how long it takes to run the whole history. So I sure understand it. Well, let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about academics for a few minutes. I know that we've all gone through a difficult couple of years. In fact, in getting ready for today, I was looking on the state website, and I see a report here from the Public Affairs and Research Council that says that after a year and a half of COVID schooling, only about half of the Alabama students in grades 3 through 8, this report came out last fall, scored proficient in reading, and less than a quarter of them reached the proficiency level in math on the state's new standardized test.
Right.
They call it ACAP.
Right.
And if
which is about maybe the fifth state assessment that I've been through in my last 35
yeah, they
years.
change them.
They do change
keep
it
changing
regularly,
them, don't they? Yeah.
Right.
Once you get to learn one, they change it on you.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
I think we had one for just 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
But
So I quit trying to keep up with the name of them. I know you'd like to. But anyway, according to this, the state, Alabama, didn't require any action to be taken because of the COVID thing.
Yeah.
So I know that you're probably trying to decide how to react to all this because with students being out of school, it's been difficult for everybody. But what are your thoughts, and what's the school board doing about literacy and the challenges of literacy now that kids are back in school?
Well, one thing that I'll say that the state law, a lot of people have heard or are aware of the Alabama Literacy Act, which, what most of the public and parents hear about the Literacy Act is that if my child's not on reading level at the end of the 3rd grade, they're going to be retained.
Right, that's what this says, that they're going to hold them back.
Right, and that was supposed to kick in originally last year, but because of COVID, it's been delayed, and the legislature just delayed that again this past session. But still, just because they've delayed the retention piece of the legislation, we've still been working on summer literacy camps and hiring additional reading coaches and interventionists. That's what we've used a good bit of our ESSER money for, our COVID aid money.
Right.
That's what we've used a lot of it for, to address learning loss during COVID. We have reading camps going on right now at all 4 of our elementary schools, for not just for 3rd graders, but for all, K through 3, any student that was reading or at below grade level for whatever grade they were in, were invited to come to literacy camp. And that's been going well. The numbers were a little low we started the day after Memorial Day, which probably wasn't the best day to start a summer reading camp for students. So the attendance was low that first day or two, but now the students that we were looking for, hoping for, are there. It's not mandatory for the students to attend, but they are. One thing that we're doing is this is something that a couple of other superintendents and I have been talking about for the last couple of years, and we discuss it with Eric, with Dr. Mackey, is if what we see in the pre-K program, the Alabama First Class pre-K program, of having an auxiliary teacher in the class with the regular teacher, and essentially having 2 teacher types in the room. I'm not talking about an aide like you might have with a special needs student. I'm talking about an auxiliary teacher. If that worked so well for the first class pre-K, and it does, why can't the state provide funding for an auxiliary teacher in all the kindergarten classes, in the 1st grade classes, and the 2nd grade classes, to help the certified classroom teacher work on literacy and numeracy. It's something that Jamie Chapman in Pickens County and I have discussed and have put that forward to Dr. Mackey, and they actually are finally starting to look at that and are talking about doing it. But in the meantime, in Bibb County, we've made the decision to go ahead, instead of waiting, and put an auxiliary teacher in every kindergarten class. And once that's done, start filling our first grade classrooms with auxiliary teachers. And again, what is an auxiliary teacher? Well, it's not just a paraprofessional aide like a lot of people think.
A degree teacher, right?
Well, not necessarily degree, but it's a teacher that has training above and beyond what just an aide might have. Typically, what the first class pre-K asks for is at least 9 hours of early childhood education credits. So it's not a full, it could be a full degree teacher, but at the very least, we're looking for auxiliary teachers that at least have 9 or more hours of early childhood education. So that's something that we're doing to address that gap that we have. Like I said, we've hired additional interventionists in our schools, not just our early elementary, but in our middle school and high schools. We've hired interventionists to come in part-time. Some of these are retired teachers who make great additional instructors. So those are some things we're doing.
And that's a Bibb County strategy.
That's something we're doing here. They're not doing that in every county. I do know that there are a few. I know my friend Dennis Willingham in Walker County. They've been doing a program similar to this for a few years, but we've decided to use our ESSER funding to fund an additional auxiliary teacher in every kindergarten class. And when we get that done, we'll move to first grade. And like everything else, Mike, sometimes it's hard to find people to fill these positions, but we're working on it.
Well, that was a question that I had for you. I know that you have some challenges finding teachers. Are you having challenges finding these kind of slots, filling these kind of slots you're talking about?
We are. And that's because everybody's hiring. I mean, there are school systems all over the state that are doing the same thing that we're trying to do, which is use our ESSER money to hire additional teachers, additional support, and it is challenging. The teacher shortage is real. It used to be 5, 7, 10 years ago and longer. What you may have heard in the general public was, "Wow, we don't have any math or science teachers. We don't have any math or science teachers." And that's what all you heard was, we're really short on math and science teachers and STEM teachers. But the fact is, right now, for the last couple of years, we're having trouble finding third grade teachers. We're having trouble finding 7th grade social studies teachers. There just aren't that many candidates out there, and the colleges of education aren't churning out new teachers like they used to. So it's a real issue. We used to have maybe anywhere from 30 to 50 applicants for a 2nd grade teaching position. Mm-hmm. We're lucky now if we get 3 to 5 really good qualified applicants in some instances. So it's real. It's a real issue and a real headache that we're dealing with all across the state.
Well, it used to be that it was because the classrooms were overloaded and they were overworked, but you're telling me that they've got auxiliary teachers resources now to help them in many cases.
Well, we have. We've hired. We're in the process of hiring these auxiliary teachers for our kindergarten and first grade classes. Some have actually already started. We started this back in the past semester, and I know the State Board of Education, in their meeting last Thursday, had discussions on teacher certification issues and how, Mike, it's a conundrum for Dr. Mackey and the state board, because one, you want to look at maybe making it easier for a teacher to become certified, but if you're making it a little easier for a teacher to be certified, you risk the quality of instructor that you're going after if the requirements are lessened. So it's a real, it's a real conundrum.
Yeah, I get it.
That the state leaders are under, to make it easier to certify, let's say, someone who's coming out of industry that with a math degree or a science degree, and getting them certified to teach. It's getting more and more difficult.
Right. You mentioned an interventionist at the high school level. What would that person be? Would that be academics that they would
yes,
be?
at-risk students, basically maybe small group instruction, one-on-one instruction. That those students that are falling through the cracks, they're not up to speed with their classmates. So an interventionist at a high school might work with one to 3 or 4 students in a smaller group setting.
Okay. All right. Now, you've also got some resources available that I've heard about, which include mental health counselors and social worker resources that you didn't used to have. Now,
We did not.
Where did that come from?
Well, we hired a mental health services coordinator this year, back in August. That's something that the state for the last 2 years has said, if you hire one, we will reimburse you X amount for it. And of course, it's never the full salary and benefit amount. But for the last couple of years, the state has said, okay, you systems, if you hire a mental health services coordinator, we will reimburse you for part of their salary and benefits. So we hired one in August of 2021. Well, in the session that just passed, the legislative session of 2022, the legislature made it a law that every school system would hire a mental health services coordinator. So we actually got 1 year ahead of the law on that. Now it's required for every system to hire. It's been a tremendous asset for our school system.
You did it as an optional decision.
Right. We did it basically a year before the state mandated it. And there are some school systems that did it 1 year before we did.
And that mental health coordinator is for a system-wide function?
Right. It's a coordinator position. The person works with school counselors, and anytime there's a mental health crisis in any of the schools, the mental health services coordinator steps in. This person has a very close working relationship with people at DHR, people at the mental health department, the state mental health department. This person has contacts to see about if and when we need to find a bed for a child that needs intensive mental health services. That's what our mental health services coordinator does. And it really takes a lot of that burden or onus off of our school counselors, who are already swamped with more, if you would say, more minor mental health issues of just your daily student issues of mental health.
All right, and the social workers you mentioned, are they in addition to school counselors?
They are. Now, those are something that we just decided, again, we've talked to some other superintendents and some other systems that have hired their own social workers, and they work basically, they're housed in our 2 middle schools because that's where most of your mental health issues of our students are happening, in the 5th through the 8th grades. Not saying it's not in the elementary schools, not in the high schools, but our data tells us that the greatest need for mental health numbers-wise, is in our middle schools. So we have our one social worker at each middle school, but they do serve the whole county. If there's an issue at a high school, at Bibb County High School or West Blockton High School, or one of the elementary schools where the mental health services coordinator, the school counselor, and the principal feel like a social worker needs to come in and make regular visits and counseling, then they're available.
Okay.
And we're using our own local money for that.
That's coming out of the ESSER fund.
It is, but we're CSFO and I feel like this is something that even when the ESSER money runs out, it's been such a positive impact that we'll keep it going. We know that we can't continually employ all of the interventionists and extra teachers and reading coaches. We know that we can't do that without more funding, but for something like the social workers, we've already seen that it's been such a tremendous asset that I won't say, that would be a board decision. I can't say that we will continue them, but I would make every recommendation to the board that those would be positions that we keep once ESSER money goes away.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The State School Association.
Superintendent
Association.
Yeah,
You're president of that, right?
well, I'm president of District 7. That's Chilton County, Bibb County, Hale County, Greene County, Tuscaloosa County, Tuscaloosa City, Walker County, Jasper City, Fayette County, Lamar County, Pickens County, Marion County, and Winfield City. And I'm the president of District 7. All of the superintendents in the state are divided into 9 districts, and we have our own quarterly meetings where we meet and discuss issues that are impacting, us. It's an association. So I've been for the last 4 years the District 7 president, and also I serve on the board of directors for the state association.
So they meet quarterly?
We meet, yeah, we do, and actually the state meets quarterly as well. As a matter of fact, I've got to be in Perdido Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock for a board meeting.
So you're running for re-election, but you're going to a board meeting anyway, right?
Well, it's a duty and responsibility I have to the State School Superintendents Association, and I'm on the board of directors, and I'll be down there Sunday evening.
You wouldn't rather be knocking on doors?
Not on a Sunday. Not on a Sunday.
Okay. Well, your obligations are what they are. The job as superintendent, kind of 24-hour a day job anyway, isn't it?
It is. Mike, it's a stressful job. It's 24/7. It's there's always a personnel issue, a discipline issue, a facilities issue, a curriculum issue. Every day there's an issue somewhere, and that's the nature of the job. But right. It is stressful. But you also have those times when you see a student or a group of students succeed. Braden Six winning the state spelling bee recently and representing our state, not just our county, but our state, and the national spelling bee, Scripps Howard. You get opportunities like that just really, you're happy for the students and their parents and family and their teachers and the community, and those are the kind of minutes that make all of the stress seem bearable.
Right. Well, running the school system and having to running a campaign, those are hard for anybody. Campaigning is difficult. But what would you say about your campaign and campaigning? How's it going?
Well, it's I think there are 36 of us elected superintendents in Alabama, and there are only a handful more in the rest of the country. I think several in Florida. Everywhere else, superintendents are appointed by the local Board of Education. There are pros and cons on both of those. I've actually spoken to Steve McMillan. May he rest in peace. He passed away a few months ago. But Steve, every year, representative from Baldwin County would bring up the bill to have all superintendents appointed rather than elected. Mm-hmm. And the last year he brought that up, it actually sailed through the House, the Alabama House, I think 99-0, but the Senate never brought it to the floor. There are pros and cons on each side of it. As far the drawback of being an elected superintendent is the actual campaign and election. It's right. Distracting. It does. I don't care who you are. If you're an elected superintendent and you're running for superintendent, it distracts you from what your daily job is, and but it's something you have to do. It's part of. It's what you have to do. It's part of the job of having the job is running for superintendent. And it's never bad to get out and meet and talk with people and answer questions. But I think I won't say any. I think there's some people that love politics and love to run and love to talk.
Yeah, Dwayne, some people like politics. I don't know who they are.
Yeah, politicians like politics. I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
But it is good to get out and meet the public, and I've had an opportunity in the last several weeks to put out some information that shines a light on all the great things that are happening in our school. Right. The people that that have seen those social media posts and shared them. We had accreditation in February. And your score from SACS, or it's now called Cognia, your IQ score is 100 to 400 on a scale. Nationwide, the average is 278, and our score was 324. We're well better than average on this 5-year accreditation. That's
what
really
was
good.
A score of?
It's 100 to 400, and the national average is 278.
Okay.
Our score was 324, which was about 70 points higher than 5 years ago. Now, I was a superintendent 5 years ago, and our score was around 258 or 259, which was a little less than the national average. Mm-hmm. But in the last 5 years, we've worked hard, and we've increased that score 70 points to where we're now, what is that? That's 324. It's about 45 points higher than the national average. That's due to the work of our administrators, our teachers, and our stakeholders, because, an accreditation visit, they want to see all your community together.
Right.
But that's something, my assistant superintendent, Dr. Kim Partridge, worked hard chairing that and putting it together. But that's something that not just us as educators in the school system, but all of our community should be proud to know and see that our school accreditation is beyond the national average of IEQ scores.
That's right.
So getting back to the election and campaigning, it's fun to share the good news and the bright news. I released information today about graduation rates and college and career readiness. The class of 2021 in Bibb County High and West Blockton High, the class of 2021, our graduation rate was 91%. Okay, 91%. We'd like for it to be 100%, but it's a lot of times there's nothing we can do if a student drops out. And if one student that started the 9th grade this year drops out before they graduate, you're never going to have a 100% graduation rate for that cohort. But anyway, 91% of our students, seniors, graduated last year. And of that 91%, 89% of those graduates had what we call college and career ready. They had something that signified that their diploma meant something. Not just that they graduated, but they had a benchmark score on the ACT. They had a career indicator, an industry credential. They had an AP score of 3, 4, or 5 on an AP course. They had a work key score that qualified, or they had a MEPS form, a military enlistment form. 89% of all of our students that graduated last year met what the state wants to see a diploma represent. The state average was just 76%. Bibb County Schools ranked 26th of all 139 school systems in the state of Alabama in college and career readiness. When you look at the gap between the students that received a diploma and what that piece of paper actually means. And that's a great thing. That's worth celebrating. That, you know, there are only 2% of our students that graduated received a diploma that was strictly just based on them earning enough credits to graduate.
Yeah, that's an important.
And that's something that, you know, state and national education leaders, you know, brought to the forefront, I don't know, around 10 years ago, of all of these states had high graduation rates. But what did that diploma actually mean when you had a lot of students that, you know, didn't have a benchmark score on the ACT or work keys or a college career tech credential? So, you know, those are things I love to share with people.
Right. But that's an important one, because we have employers and people in the workforce side of the business telling us that students come out that are not career ready.
Right.
We hear that all the time. But when you take that number, that statistic you just said, you just quoted, when compared to other schools, it's an important comparison.
Right. I think it is. And again, our school system's 26th in the state. And, you know, say, hey, we're number 26 doesn't sound great, but there are 139 school systems.
Right.
And we ranked higher in that gap between diploma and college and career readiness, much higher than some schools that a lot of people think, well, that's, and strict academics, they maybe are better schools, but we have, you know, we have such a stronger career tech program.
Right.
And we do offer for a county rural school system, we don't offer as many AP courses as I would like to, but we do offer a good many.
Well, you got a lot going on up there at the Career Tech, and I think you're very progressive up there with those programs. I have one more topic. We've been here a long time, so we'll wrap this up soon, but I want to ask you about parent engagement. We've had a couple of years of reasons for people to express their opinion. I'm talking about parents, and to be engaged with schools because of the stressful things we've gone through. But prior to that, we were going through a long period of where it appeared that parents were disengaged from the school system on a large basis, where parents didn't seem to even know what was going on in the schools, which was obviously not healthy for our society. And I wondered what your thoughts were, just reflecting back on that and your campaigning and talking to people about schools and what's going on in the schools, what you've seen in the last couple of years, what your thoughts are about how parents are now engaging with schools and parent organizations and parent involvement, if it is changing for the better, or are you seeing that?
Mike, I would say that in my work in 35 years now in Bibb County school systems, we do have super parents. Maybe not as many as you'd like to see, but I think our teachers and our administrators, when they ask or seek support from parents, they get it. But what I would say to what you're bringing up is, I think some of our teachers and administrators would still like to see more engagement with their child in the home versus social media engagement.
Right.
And I choose my words carefully here. We do have great parents that do work and are engaged with their child at home and seek help from the teachers. We do. I'm not saying we don't, but I think that kind of engagement could be more. One thing that we've done just the last 6 months is we've partnered with West Alabama, United Way of West Alabama, and Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Any parent in Bibb County that has a child that was born yesterday, last month, or last year can sign up, and they will receive a brand new book in the mail for that child from birth to age 5. And if those parents will sign up for that, the ones that don't regularly have books for their kids and spend time with their 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, that can have a tremendous impact on a community's literacy. Obviously, we just started this. It's been disappointing that the numbers aren't more. When we talk to United Way and they track the sign-ups, it hasn't been as great as I would have liked to have seen. So, does that go back to the engagement question you're asking? I say it does. It doesn't mean just because a parent hasn't signed up that they're a bad parent, because a lot of parents don't have to sign up. They buy books and have books from older siblings. But we know, our teachers know, without a doubt, that we have many children, 2, 3, 4-year-olds at home that have nothing to read that's at their age level. So, yes, engagement is increased with parents, and that's good, but it could always be better, and it could always be better working with the child in the home and helping them with reading and homework, reading to them daily, reading them a story at night. Not saying people don't do that. People watch or listen to an interview and say, "Oh, I do that. What's he talking?" I'm not saying everybody, but I will say we need more of it. And our pre-K teachers and kindergarten teachers can certainly tell you that we're getting kids enrolled in kindergarten that can't even recognize letters and numbers.
Yeah.
That's almost inexcusable to most parents, but we're getting them. We're getting students like that.
Well, that is the essence of my question, because it's not, it's a circle of education between the school, the parent, and the home and the school. The circle's not complete.
Right.
We have too many parents who think it's all the school's job.
There are some, yes. There are some.
And the circle is not being filled all the way around. So I think in order for education to be better, everybody has to do their part, and that's not happening. The social media thing is destroying our society.
Again, pros and cons. I love to see people's vacation and babies, and I even like to look and see what they ate for supper. But the the politics and criticism and divisiveness that social media provides for people, and for our children,
it's not helpful.
For our children, the digital ability to pick and bully and tease with tweets and Snapchats and things like that, it leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, it does. Well, we've passed the threshold of attentiveness
I'm sure we
for
have.
today's class.
I'm sure we're well past that.
So we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to just say thank you for coming, and I hope somebody will take the time to watch this, and that we've provided a service for somebody today. And I don't know who it might be, but anyway, we're going to close this up. Thank all of you who might be seeing this for watching, and support your local media. Thanks for watching. Okay. Thanks, Dwayne.
All right.
We'll.